Hi everybody. This is going to be a weekly broadcast where I explain one of my paintings and I talk about whatever I'm drinking this evening, because these are the two things I like the most, apparently. But first off, I'm going to put this down. First off, I'm going to explain what I'm having for my evening beverage is just a very simple Cabernet, and I'm going to pour myself some. I feel that I'm a connoisseur of rather inexpensive wines. Having tried most of them at a Whole Foods counter, I feel like I can really speak to what is good in this category. I also have really nice wine, and hopefully one of these times I will be drinking the really nice wine as well. But for now, because I'm home alone, and this is apparently what I'm doing, is talking about this with Cab. So it's Bubo Cabernet. It's like $9. It's really delicious. So cheers. Oh, and this is my amazing wine goblet that Michael and I got at the Madonna Inn. We have a matching set. So yeah, it's our special magical wine glass. Okay, so what I wanted to do with this is just basically take the time to explain what on earth I'm doing. I post my pictures and I kind of write something of like what my ideas are with my paintings, but I thought it would be worthwhile to actually like go into it a little bit further, because there's a lot going on. And as somebody said like last weekend, that there's a lot of Easter eggs to find in my work, which I totally do on purpose. And I'm glad somebody noticed that. Because if you keep looking at it, right, I want you to keep looking for more things and find more meaning with all of those extra symbols that keep getting added in there. So I thought I'll just take one painting a week, and some are much longer explanations than others, and some are, yes, I am actually live right now. I'm actually talking. Sorry. So I thought that let's just dive right in. All right, so this is one of my favorite paintings, so that's why we're starting with it, because it actually is like a really wonderful explanation, and my cat's probably gonna, hi Boo, that's the cat. She's so helpful. And this is Victoria, who is always parked right there if I'm at home. Hopefully the cat doesn't knock the phone off of where it is. Chi-Chi Boo is such a good girl. Okay, so this painting is titled Mama Cthulhu. And I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to zoom in and back to it. Okay. All right, Mama Cthulhu, right? So just so you can get kind of a good overall picture of what we're talking about in the background. That's Sam. Hi, Sam. Awesome. So I'm sure you can pick up on a lot of the details that are already there. And so I am a big Lovecraft fan. I have read everything he's ever written multiple times. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. He's an amazing author, and it is such an incredible period piece, and there is so much subtext happening in his work that it can just keep on being entertaining over and over and over again. So as a Lovecraft fan, I of course wanted to join the ranks of everybody that does a Cthulhu piece, because Cthulhu is from the he's got 3 works, if I'm not mistaken, that kind of like work with this mythos of the ancient ones, and all of his, not all, but many of his pieces have reference to this other world of these ancient beings that once ruled this planet, and now are either dormant or extinct or moved on or went back to whatever planet they came from in the first place. Again, as a Cthulhu fan, I really wanted to put my 2 cents in on that one, and again, if you've read Lovecraft, then you kind of know what I mean. But just generally, whenever Lovecraft explains Cthulhu, many of the old ones even, he always uses words like dark, slippery, wet, slimy, on and on in these kind of ways. And immediately from the first time I read it, I had this like, oh, that's feminine. Like dark goddess, wet, slimy, like there's all these words that are so obviously like of, lady organs that like, come on, dude, like who are you kidding? So it's a dark feminine expression, and he never genders Cthulhu. Just always says that Cthulhu is kind of the shaman or the priest of the old ones. So I, of course, immediately went to the Hindu goddess Kali. So I will step away from my painting so you can look at it. So I, of course, immediately went to the Hindu goddess Kali. Kali is both the creator and the destroyer of worlds. And she, she's always personified as being super ferocious and freaky and, like she's like killing somebody, and she's got like a skull and a saber or a severed head. And that's Sam whistling in the background. He's super into it. So I portrayed Mama Cthulhu as the Hindu goddess Kali, because of course Cthulhu, as we all know, is the destroyer of worlds, and so is she. So instead of a severed head, I included a Mr. Potato Head, and instead of a saber, which is like a proper sword, it's a curved sword, kind of looks like a scimitar. This is a lightsaber, and that is specifically Luke's lightsaber. So Luke, of course, is the bringer of light, of goodness, of pure goodness, of destruction of evil. So it kind of gives that like double meaning right there too. So if Kali is more commonly known, or Cthulhu is more commonly known as the destroyer of worlds, then like if she's also holding the saber that brings truth and goodness, then those things are in juxtaposition of each other, right? So that's the kind of duality I'm playing with in this entire piece, is that things that are destructive are also creative. I mean, think of like a giant wildfire. Yeah, it sucks and it burns everything up, but it also fertilizes the soil in a really meaningful way and allows new growth to happen. So these things happen in nature all the time and happen around us all the time. So that's the idea I'm playing with. Okay, so lightsaber, and then so she is giving birth to the world egg. The egg is in the shape of Earth, and it is cracked open, and out of the egg is coming all of the galaxies in the universe. So that is kind of that we as a conscious being, as a self-conscious being, know about the universe and explore the universe because we are a part of it, right? So without us, we can't really know things, I mean, and in one sense, it's like you can't really know anything anyway, because like everybody lives inside of our own selves, and anything that's out there is projected, and we can't really be sure of any of that. So on some level, the universe can only exist because we think about it. It's like there's this really wonderful like physics story about how the Earth or the moon isn't there unless we're looking at it. It's like the uncertainty principle. You have to measure something to kind of locate it in that place so that you can measure it. Super interesting. Hold on. It does look as though, so that's afterbirth. I was getting there. So the rainbowness is afterbirth. So that's awesome, right? All that gooey, dark, sloppy goodness, like that's all lady juice, and it's all like coming out after she gave birth to the egg. So, and rainbows, of course, because everybody loves rainbows, and like it is kind of the encompassing of all things. So, it's you know, it's all of the spectrum, and so that's why I use rainbows in a lot of my work, because it kind of represents like a wholeness in a way. Okay, so the known universe, rainbow afterbirth, and she is sitting atop the USS Enterprise from the original series. Anybody who knows, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I try to incorporate Star Trek references in a lot of my stuff just because I think and I believe in the Star Trek future. It's something that we can all, I hope, you know, we can kind of attain and hope for. You know, where it is a post-scarcity society where people do what they want to do because that's their true calling. And there's exploration and friendship and working together and alliances. And sure, sometimes, you know, you fuck up, but like, that's okay because you can work it out by diplomacy. I mean, that just sounds awesome, right? Like, who doesn't want that? So, as the original series Enterprise is what, you know, Gene Roddenberry's vision really was. And Roddenberry was a visionary beyond all measure, was the first person to put an African-American woman in a role of power and knowledge on television, and was an inspiration to Whoopi Goldberg, who, of course, then later was in Next Generation. And, you know, like, when we were at the Star Trek conference, she made this statement about how she never saw black people in the future until she saw Star Trek. And I thought that was the most amazing statement because, of course, you know, like, I don't see that per se, you know, but now I do. Now I do because she saw it. And I thought that that was the most beautiful thing, and such a legacy for Roddenberry to be able to say that, yes, we're all included. And, you know, like George Takei and like that crew was extremely diverse. It had aliens, it had multiple races. It was amazing for the time that it was created in. So as the kind of lotus of knowledge, the harbinger of hope, you know, for the future, that is what the Enterprise always represents in my work. Okay. So as Mama Cthulhu is sitting on the Enterprise, giving birth to the world egg to know itself, she is also haloed by a black hole. So as, of course, the great goddess, she has to have a halo. So that up there is a representation of a black hole. You know, again, just this notion of total annihilation and complete rebirth on the other side, wherever that other side may be, because you don't get to know that. So this pattern here, I'm going to take a sip of my delicious Cabernet. Okay. So this pattern on the bottom appears in several of my work, my pieces. And it is kind of a flower of life motif. So, of course, sacred geometry and everything that entails is kind of like the underlying pattern that exists, like, amongst and underneath everything. So underneath, you know, like if you can imagine this is like a veil and you pull the veil up, there's kind of like a sacred geometrical pattern that kind of binds it all together and sets the groundwork for creating new things. So this pattern appeared to me during a vision journey. And it was shown to me as exactly the it is a good paint thinner, exactly as kind of the interdimensional like layer underneath reality. And of course, like reality, whatever that means anyway, is very subjective. And from the atoms and within the atoms and within the even smaller bits and the smaller bits and the nano smaller bits, there is this like geometrical kind of underlying wisdom that maps out what we are. And of course, I think that is lovely and that's a nice thing to think about. But I think there's a way to look at that as, of course, like our brains naturally pattern things. It's just how we're hardwired, literally. So, you know, in one sense, like the notion that there's a sacred geometry under all things, there is, because our brain puts it there. And whether it's there or not, it doesn't really matter. We just like find those patterns, so they're inherently there regardless. You know, again, like because you can measure something like the Heisenberg, the uncertainty principle, you know, it kind of makes it there. So same concept. Okay. Yeah. So did I miss anything? Nope. I think that's it. So my favorite part of this painting, so I'll also share that. My favorite part of this painting is our hands. I'm going to close in on those hands because they're totally the best. Okay. Yes. And of course, you're just getting a close-up of her crotch. But I really love painting hands, and I think these witchy, webby hands are maybe like the best things I've painted. Oh, wow, they just make me super happy. Cool. So thank you so much for joining in. So again, just to recap, Mama Cthulhu sitting on the USS Enterprise is the harbinger of new hope for the future. So as both the creator and the destroyer of the universe, she will wield her saber, the bringer of light, the bringer of truth and goodness, and through her own duality will birth humanity and the world in order for the universe to know itself. And all of this exists on a sacred geometric interdimensional space, and that is how the universe was born. I mean, of course. So yeah, that's Mama Cthulhu for you. So I hope you enjoyed that. I will be doing this weekly. I will take a painting, one of my paintings, and I will spend the time to explain it, and hopefully give you some insight into the crazy world that is me. And I will also share with you whatever I am drinking at the time. It could be wine. It often is wine in the evenings. Also often whiskey. So I get to chat about one of my favorite topics, whiskey, too, next time for sure. So we will join me for a drink if you want. And please comment. Thank you for everybody that did. I will reply when I'm not talking anymore. And yeah, lovely. Cheers. Thank you so much.